We're good.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Keith Rivera. You can see my name right here. I am joined here with Jeff, my main man. Say what up to everyone.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. So we are really excited. I said this a little bit earlier on, and I feel like I say it every single new release webinar, but this one is a really big release. We are super excited about it, and we're so excited to share it with y'all. So today we are going to be showing you the 2022.2 release, right? We're stoked. But before we do that, Jeff, go to the next slide. As you can see, Jeff and I both have our Geosteering World Cup backgrounds, but we just wanted to let you know, for those of you who have not signed up to participate, you can scan that code now. Sign up to register to be a participant in the Geosteering World Cup 2022. We are super stoked about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have really cool prizes, as you can see the hint of the drone on this screen for the winner, as well as a really cool trophy. And then we've got some other cool little fun prizes for taking selfie photos and using our filter of you steering, right? I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be cool. I'll be your host. So yeah, please register, please join, and we're going to be showing it, airing it live on YouTube, I believe. So stay tuned for that. But without further ado, Jeff, please take it over. They're all here for this new release. So let's kick it off, baby.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Keith. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Jeff Kriz. I'm the technical team lead here at ROGII. I'm always excited to do these new release webinars. Super fun to get to sit here and just show you guys all the new features. So even though this is a new release features for StarSteer, we're actually going to start in Solo Data Manager today. So I'm going to pull this up. We're super excited to show you this. This is our first public data integration for Data Manager, and we are partnering with a company called PetroNinja. So here I'm in Data Manager. For those of you who don't know what it is or not in Solo, it does exactly how it's described. It lets you manage data. So what we're looking at here is a map of BC up here in Canada. And what we're looking at are some wells that we have in this Solo project called BC Large. So these are our own wells. Let me just zoom in here a little bit. Whoopsies. Okay. And so this new feature, PetroNinja data layer. All right, so we have a new button here. It's the public data layer. You see if I hover over, I'm logged into the PetroNinja account. I'll just go ahead and toggle it on. All right, and we get a layer turned on. We can see all the public data surrounding our own Solo well. So it's super cool. Even if you don't have an account, we allow all of our clients to turn on this data layer and see the competitor as well. So if we zoom in here, I can use this little pointer button, and we can come in here and click on any well. All right, we get some basic well information even without an account, right? So wellbore ID, license C, in this case, CNRL. We have a field, spud date, just some basic info. All right, now the cool part is if you do have a PetroNinja professional or enterprise account, you can actually come in here. I'm going to toggle this off for a sec. I'm going to find a pad of our own so we can see 3 wells here that we have in our Solo project. I'll turn it back on. All right, so we might be interested in taking a look at these wells. So I can see I have 2 trajectories over here. I can come in here with my lasso tool. Let's select them. All right, and now I don't own these wells, but there is trajectory data that exists. Since I'm in Solo, I have these objects selected. I can actually import trajectories into my Solo project in StarSteer. So I'll hit import trajectories. You can see I'm importing now. And it's done. If I were to go back into StarSteer, connect to this project in Solo, I would be able to turn those 3 trajectories on and have a look at them. Now,
that's awesome.
For now, it's just trajectory data, but we are working and going to support tops, so top sets, logs, and certain well attributes like production data. I think production data will be one of the first things we integrate. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that's still important, bringing in the trajectories, Jeff, right? Like, because we have a script in StarSteer that you can use where you can It's kind of like a gun barrel plot, right? But instead of using the horizons, it uses the grids that you have in your project. So it'll at least give you an idea of where those wells landed relative to your grids, your how you break out your subsurface, right? Because some people might define, and I always go to the Delaware and the Permian, right? Like, when I worked at Noble Energy, our Wolfcamp B was different than other people's Wolfcamp B. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
how you call those formations, it may change. So that's still really important to see where they landed. You know what I mean? And Jeff, I
Yeah.
see you're moving around because you zoomed into Canada, but does PetroNinja have any wells elsewhere?
Yeah, we got Canada, we got places like Colorado, we have a lot of data in Texas, and I think more and more is being developed. So I'm just going to zoom down
Cool.
here to Texas. And the one thing you say about that script is that if you have a grid in a StarSteer project, you can bring in that public trajectory, sort of reference it to that grid, turn on some horizons, and then you'll actually see where that well was drilled. And why is this important? I mean, when you get log data, public log data, you can bring it in, you can actually start to backsteer your competitors' wells and come up with your own interpretation on where they drilled it. Are they targeting the same part of the zone as you? Are they not? Are they successful? So you can really do a deep dive just with this tool, right? It's one click, you have access to all that data, and you can go ahead
Jeff,
and use it in your own project.
do me a solid. Zoom into Houston. We got a lot of Houston callers, and then zoom into Delaware. Okay, so there's a lot of wells that have been drilled in Houston. Go to the Permian Basin real quick.
Over here in like Midland, there's no wells drilled over here, is there?
No, not that many. I don't think.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So yeah, you
Plateau.
can go ahead, load these into your project now. So this is kind of that first chip of the first domino in the domino chain of bringing in some data into your projects that you guys don't currently own. So really excited about that. That's huge.
Absolutely. One other little thing to point out, we do have a legend down here. You can expand it open and take a look at all the little wellhead symbols, find out what they are.
Also, y'all, I didn't mention before, but if you have any questions, please put it in the Q&A in the chat of the webinar, or you can put it in the chat. There's a chat and a Q&A. You can put your questions in those. Jeff and I will both be able to field them. So feel free to ask away.
Absolutely. So let's stick on the topic of data import. Right. So in this new release, we have a fancy new data import option. It's called multi-well import. Now, if you remember, we have the bulk well import capability. So if you have trajectories in separate files, you can go ahead and grab 10 files, drop it into StarSteer. But what often happens is in some other popular, geo software is you end up with trajectories in one single Excel file. That's kind of a problem. We do have a solution for that. It was a Python script, but it's a little bit finicky, right? So now I'm just going to pull up an example of what the survey might look like, right? So we have multiple wells, right, in the same spreadsheet. So we have all these headers. We have things like azimuth vs grid convergence, right? So this is a pretty typical file you'd end up with. So in this new release, we can actually drag and drop a file like that right into StarSteer. So I'll just bring it over, drop it in here, and we have this new little toggle called multi-well. The single well, it's kind of the same setup as before. You're used to seeing that. Multi-well, we can match by well name or API. We can tell it to recognize, type wells or laterals with a cutoff. And we can choose to replace, merge, or create new trajectory or well objects, right? So StarSteer's kind of recognize the headers in this case, well name, MDTVD, X and Y. We know it's true north. We can even set things like azimuth vs and grid convergence. So that'll show up in your header. All right, so once I'm happy, I can click import. There it's brought in 4 lateral wells, and it's recognized 1 type well as well, right?
That is, Jeff, dude, that is such a huge time saver. Not only just bringing in, bulk laterals, but being able to bring in both laterals and type wells in the same file at the same time, and it can distinguish the two, right? I mean, that's such a huge time saver. I'm not gonna lie, back in the day, drag and dropping single wells and setting them up was it was not fun.
Well, even the Python script took time, right? You had to make
Yeah.
sure you set all your columns correctly. Very finicky. So these wells are in. We can open the spreadsheet. We can check out the headers. Remember, we defined X and Y surface. We defined VS and grid convergence. Now we're missing a few things like API, KB elevation. Now, if you remember from last release, we did add the ability to import well headers, right? So you might end up with a file that looks like this, just a simple file, one well per row, well name, KB, whatever you have in that file, right? The same thing, I can come over here, right click on wells, import well headers. I'm going to choose my well headers file. All right, and I have some things I need to define just like before, and I'm going to add KB in this case. So I've got KB selected. Hit OK. It says, so it actually finds wells that are already there, right? So it says it's already in the project. Would you like to update this well header? And I'd like to update all of them that exist with my KB. So I'll update.
Nice.
All right, it updated some. It actually created a new well over here because it found an extra well in this case.
Which is like, that would be like like a new planned well or a new well surface, right?
Exactly, right. So let's check out the headers that existed before. You can see we've added API because that's the column we defined as API, and KB.
So
right?
Jeff,
So
I got a question. When you brought these in, you brought them in as surveys and well headers. Can you do well headers and then surveys? Or does the workflow matter? Can you do them?
You can do either or. You can do them like, so in this example, it brought in this new clue well. And if we open it up, we'll see that we have headers in this case, but no trajectories yet. So we're ready to drill this well. Now these two columns actually are imported during the trajectory import process. So that's why we don't have information here yet.
Mm-hmm.
I guess theoretically, if it did exist in your well header file, you could define it here. But all right, so we're ready to go. The other thing on well header import is we did add the duplicate API matching. So if you do have duplicate APIs, it will tell you that.
Nice.
Before, it just looked for well name, but now we have API as well.
Nice. No, that's awesome. That drag and drop feature is super time saving, bringing all those wells in. It's huge. Now I know we had, the ability to bring in data from WITSML, but we updated the WITSML, right, input functionality, right?
Yeah, so if we're ready to drill this well, the next thing we'll need is logs, right? So if you have multiple logs in your local drive, you can, of course, drag and drop it as you've always been able to do. But we have made big time improvements to our WITSML logic. And this is separate logic for different objects, excuse me. So trajectory, logs, and mud logs, we have separate logic. So for trajectories, we can either replace or merge. Logs, we can merge or append, and mud logs, we can merge or replace.
Nice.
So why is this important? Well, you might run into different situations where you need to control, differences in streaming between your trajectory and logs. The classic example is if you drill the well, you have to sidetrack a second leg. Sometimes your MWD provider will be providing surveys without the leg one survey information, right? So if you're streaming, you don't necessarily want to be on replace. If you're on replace, you're going to lose the uphold data that you might have manually loaded, right?
Yeah.
This allows you to manually load that leg one information up to sidetrack point, turn on merge, and then continue streaming.
Hey, Jeff, I'm going to pause you real quick. I got a question in the chat. This goes back to the multi-well drag and drop feature. And how does it know that the well is a horizontal well and not a type well? Aaron, great question. The answer to that is on that drag and drop functionality. There's a multi-well button, and in that multi-well functionality, there's another toggle where you can select an inclination that is like the line of demarcation between a type well and a lateral. So, if you say you define a lateral 65 degrees and above, you just set that inclination into that little space. And when you hit import, it'll take every well that has, an inclination of 65 degrees or less and put that into the type well. Now, if you say it's 85 degrees, that's the same thing. Everything, you know, below 85 degrees, that's the same thing. Everything, you know, below 85 degrees will go in as a type well, and everything above 85 will go into the wells or the horizontal portion. So I just wanted to answer that, Jeff.
Oh, yeah, great.
Too far.
Yeah. Yeah, keep putting your questions in. If you have them, we'll try to answer them as we go. Sure.
Yes.
So the other little update we made for logs specifically is that, you know, many of you know, if you're streaming gamma ray data, you'll end up with a lot of null values at the bottom of your data set. So that -999 value. And what could happen in StarSteer is your stream would actually sometimes be cut off or stop completely, and because of these null values. And one of the remedies for that was to choose replace mode. Now, if you were in a sidetrack situation, you didn't necessarily want to turn on replace mode because it would replace not only the log, but the actual surveys, right? So you'd lose that uphold data again. So what would happen, you have to leave it on merge and then manually drag and drop your gamma ray data. So we fixed that. We have merge and append options for logs. Merge will actually go back and overwrite the null values, so you won't experience that cut in your stream. And append will actually append to the end of whatever data is there. So if it's null values, it will keep the null values and just start appending at the end. So this is great. It's separate logic for these different objects. The user pretty much has full control over what they need to stream.
Jeff, quick question, another one. Great question, Aaron. For the well headers, you know how we imported the well headers? You went by right-clicking on wells and import well headers.
Yep.
Can you bring in well headers, maybe under the import tab under data headers? Can you bring all of the headers in for both horizontal and type well? Or do you have to do it, you know, wells first or type wells first, like do them separately?
You can. I did show this in the last webinar for the last release. But essentially what you do is you can have both laterals and type wells in that file. And there's a column, I think, if I remember correctly, you have to right click on a column. You can actually define each row as a lateral or a type well, right? And if you right click and import well headers on wells, it'll assume that they're all wells. If you want to right click and import well headers on type wells, it's going to assume they're all type wells, but you can actually define it in that little import wizard at the time you do it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep. All right. Let's stick on the topic of data import. So this is kind of what everyone's here for.
Yes, this is
very excited about this little function, little feature, and that is seismic volumes in StarSteer.
Yeah, baby. Round of applause. Let's do this.
Yeah.
That looks like an image, Jeff. I don't know what you're talking about.
This is not an image. This is a 3D seismic volume. It gives the user full control over the seismic slice, so they can slice on VS azimuth, well trajectory, well plan. They can switch between VS and THL, no problem at all. Right. So this is real 3D seismic volume here. You gotta trust me.
All right, let's see it. Like change the horizontal view to like THL or do something like so we can see
Yes, I'm in VS. I can switch over to THL. We're just going to reproject this slice.
Nice.
And back again. All right, so it's just a fully drag and drop capable into Solo, into StarSteer. This is the way it works. And just to show you how easy it is to get seismic into StarSteer, I'm actually going to delete the seismic out of here, and I'm going to bring it back in. So this is a pretty large seg-y file, 650 megabytes. So we get a little data import window here. We have to set some parameters. But once we're ready, we can click OK. It's going to start importing seismic data.
While it's doing that, you mentioned the size. Is there a size restraint? And also, can you bring in multiple volumes?
Yeah, so StarSteer uses what we call Open VDS library. It compresses this file up to 30 times. So it basically turns a 650 megabyte file into a 20 megabyte file, right?
Nice.
So that allows it to load quickly, keeps it synced, allows StarSteer to stay quick and nimble, right? And you mentioned the amount of volumes we can bring in. We're pretty much unlimited here. The only thing we have right now is a 10 gigabyte max per file. So if you do have anything larger than that, let us know, and we'll work on it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's
Right,
awesome.
so somewhat of a large file, but it is compressed. It's fast. The nice thing about this is one person can take that file, load it into your project, and everyone else is going to have access, right? So not each user doesn't have to bring it in, just one person has to bring it in.
Mm-hmm.
No more like, okay, so we have full control. Now in the past, what we had to do is go and ask our geophysicists for a certain seismic slice, and save it as an image. We bring it as an image. You had to georeference it somewhere with your horizons. If you want to switch to THL, it's a couple extra clicks and steps. So this is
Well,
pretty nimble and
this
nice.
is much nicer because I know a few times in the past when I would use it, I would put my seismic line in, right? And I'd stretch down, I'd go through this thing, and then I'd look up, and my vertical section was like at 0 when the well was drilling, you know what I mean, 90, right? And so I'd go to 90 and that seismic line is gone. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I got to re-import it, redo it again because it's tied to that specific vertical section. With this, like I think you showed already, it can be tied to your well plan, your actual well survey, because it's a 3D volume. You could see, yeah. I mean, it's pretty slick.
Yeah, like much like a grid. If you guys are used to dealing with grids, we have the ability to switch it in the Format tab, either slice it along well trajectory or along VS.
And Jeff, what format options are available for Seismic to bring it in?
Format options, so like
SegY is
SegY, I believe.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome. Can you change the colors?
You can. I want to show one more thing. If I'm slicing along well trajectory,
sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Just like grids, I can slice along my well plan, which you'll see it's a little off my actual well. All right, so if I want to view it on the well plan, I can just reslice it, right? Slice back.
Nice.
Colors, yes, we are in this blue and red color scheme. But I'm glad you asked that. That is one of our most requested features of the last, I don't know, what, 3 years or so?
I'll say more because I tell you, like when I was at Noble, I mean, it was probably like 4 years ago I was asking for this.
Yeah, so we have introduced in this release custom user palettes. We are fully customizable. We can create, import, or export your own palette for any object. All right, so I'm up here in the Seismic Format tab. I can come to Palette, and we have this new little box called User Palettes. I'm going to click this, open it up. We can give it a name. So I'll say like, Jeff Tasteful Palette.
Okay. You gotta make it like super tasteful, you know?
Yeah. Nice colors. So I double click, right? I can right click on the little slider here and start adding some different colors, right? This one's white. I can right click, change to green. I can add another one here, and if I double click again, I'll get this larger window. All right, so there.
That reminds me of like sherbet ice cream.
Hold on, that's supposed to be green. There we go.
Reminds me of that rainbow sherbet ice cream, dude. I dig it.
It's a beautiful custom palette that I came up with. Happy with it.
You want to share it with your team, right? You want to share. It's like, yo, the team needs it.
It's so nice that everyone will want it, of course. And we can easily share it with the rest of our team, right? So I come in here. Now that it's created, I can see this object. If I right click, I can export. And what this does is it saves as an SS palette file. So once you save that, you can send it to the rest of your team. They can bring it back in.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing you can do is you can actually just copy it here within StarSteer. So if I right click copy, I can paste it into any other object. So if we take a look at this gamma ray, I can select it, go to the log format tab, into palette again, and you'll notice that even though I created a user palette down for the seismic object, I don't see it in the log object. That's because for now we're restricted to just one custom palette per object, right? So it's a log object, it's different. I can right click, I can import that SS palette file if I had it, or just paste. Right, so when I paste, it's now applied.
Nice.
For those of you who have a use for discrete palettes, well, turn my phone off. We can just add some different bars. Right, so if I double click, I can just slide it over here to the right. Same thing here. Let's add another one. Right, we can just kind of color block it this way. All right, so I've created a discrete palette in this case.
Nice.
All right, so for those of you who like consistent colors for like a zone log or faces or something, you can do this and then save it, keep it around for when you need it, and just import it when you need it. All right, so if I don't like it, I'm ready to get rid of it. If I delete it, I can do that. It'll just revert back to the original palette.
And the way to edit these is if you select, so do the drop down menu again on the palette, Jeff. Is if you have to highlight the one that you want to start with. So you'll start with like one of these templates, one of these standard palettes, and then from there you go and you edit it, right? So you hit that plus button, it'll adopt that color scheme, and then that's how you go through and edit it, right? So you at least have
crazy,
but starting ground, yeah.
Yeah, this one might be easier. Go. Yeah,
Austin, I completely agree, brother.
I should mention that some of you might see Seismic sort of grayed out or with a little cross through it. That's okay. We'll just reach out to your account manager and we can talk about getting that turned on for you. It doesn't come standard quite yet with your package. So
yeah. So reach out to any one of the AEs. We'll make sure that we get you hooked up with that. So that you guys can start bringing in your Seismic into your project, start using it. I mean, these Seismic cubes, reprocessing, all that kind of stuff, they're like millions of dollars, right? So we got to use it in pretty much every facet, right? And so let us know if you're interested. We can get you on and get you using this thing. So reach out to any of your AEs.
Yeah. The other thing we should mention is Seismic's not supported in local projects at this point, only in solo.
And the reason why we do that is because how big, right, those files are. Those files are massive, and that would bog down the speed of StarSteer. And I mean, y'all are drilling wells, and people are blowing and going these days. 400 foot an hour is when I left Noble, what we were drilling at. And it's like, dude, every 15, 20 minutes you're getting a survey. And so if it's slow to react, that's going to be a no-go. That's a stop right there. So in order to make it to where we didn't compromise the speed or the functionality of StarSteer, you have to put it up there. So
Karen asked, these seismic traces are in depth. Yes, these are in depth and reference to sea level.
Yep. And honestly, if you don't have it in depth, I'm sure you can reach out internally to see if you can do like, a very simple velocity model. I say that, and I'm going to put that in air quotes, a simple velocity model, to kind of depth reference it and then tie it to your tops. But yeah, get it in depth, and then you can use this bad boy.
Absolutely. All right. Let's
Cool.
move on to the next big feature. And those are some updates to our correlation panel. So let me pop open my map view. And the first thing we notice here are these little red triangles. Minor update, but a nice one. This just represents our last survey point in the well. If you're using bit projection, it also represents bit projection. So we can see that our last survey point was down here in this well. Last one was up here, so we drilled down and then back up and ended here. Same thing here.
That's actually really nice to see, to be able to see that in the correlation panel, especially when you're comparing multiple wells, right? Just to see where you are, because seeing those wraps, it's so hard to tell, you know what I mean, what it's doing without actually going through the horizontal. But now with this, you can at least see where it ended, so at least it went down, up, right? And like the first one landed lower, right? So that's clutch. Could be extremely helpful.
The other nice addition in this release is these well correlation lines, right? So I have these wells turned on from south to north across this pad, and we actually have a correlation line connected to this correlation panel. So we can see I have correlation panel 1 open, and it's labeled here in my map view as well. Right? So I can change the order of these, and the changes occur in my map as well. Right? So it helps us to develop a nice cross-section that makes sense. In the past releases, we didn't really have an idea of what was happening here in map view. You would have had to sort of, add them one by one and really pay attention when you're creating your panels, right? The other thing is I have a second correlation panel open, which means I have another correlation line, correlation number 2. And if I want to quickly switch over there, I can just double click here. I have another panel under construction. If I want to go back to 1, just double click. If I don't like that line turned on, just go ahead and close the tab. It'll disappear.
Nice. But you don't lose that correlation panel forever, right? You can still pull that up, and when you do, it'll show that where that line is.
Yeah, it's still stored here in your correlation panel. So if I want to bring it back, just click on 2, it comes back.
Now, you know what, that click function where it'll click over between on your map view, and you click on the correlation panel, and it'll make, say you're on correlation panel 1 right now, and then you have the second one shown, but then when you double click on it, it goes over and opens that one up. It's really clutch because in the map view right now, at least, you can't change the colors of the correlation panel, right? And so it might be hard to distinguish some of them, but you can double click, it'll jump you and it'll remind you. But ladies and gentlemen, this is just, again, the first domino in the long line of dominoes for this functionality, right? I mean, we are continually updating this. So a little sneak peek into the future of what may come, but this is just the first domino to be able to visualize where those are on the map view. And then we had a question, can you turn off the correlation panel line in the map view without removing the logs from the correlation panel? Jeff, do you want to answer that one?
Not yet. Next release, we'll be able to keep these open, but hide these lines. Right.
Yeah. So right now, as of right now, no, but it's coming. First domino.
Yeah. Another little notable feature that we've added, if you recall, in order to change the order of these wells, you had to click your center scroll wheel button on the header and displace these wells, right? But now you can just use your left mouse button. The left click and drag, same thing. It's just a little more, less awkward, I guess I should say.
Yeah, and Kaylin and Jimmy, one of the things, I know it's a user request, is to have those lines change colors or rename the correlation panel. Those are definitely on our developers' radar. So that's something that we are going to work on. But this here, I think long overdue, having those correlation lines on the map view. So getting that up front and then being able to change those lines, change the names, all that kind of stuff, that will be coming, right? So not yet, but hopefully really soon in future displays. Jeff, I think you should rename that color palette to the Sherbert Party palette. I agree, Austin. I think it's awesome, man.
I can export it and send it to you if you really like it.
I know. Hey, Jeff, another question. This is from Karen. Great question, Karen. I think it's coming. So I'm going to ask Jeff this and see if he has that same answer. Can you select wells in the map view to populate into the correlation panel? I know you can't yet, but that's something that's, I think, in the plans, correct? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, you can click a well. You could click on a well on map and it'll highlight in the object tree. And then all you need to do is just make sure you're active in your panel and then check it on. But yes, it would be nice to be able to draw your own line. And I think that is something on the radar as well.
Yeah, great question, Karen. Thank you. Appreciate it.
One other little feature before we move forward, you can see that I have kind of a lot open here and I've made my object tree quite small. And that blocks out my well names, right? In the past, we would have had to expand this open to see what we're dealing with. Now I can keep it small. We'll have a little tooltip, right? So that pops up. We can see our object names again. So that's a nice little new feature.
It's little, but that is a very nice feature because that was annoying.
I've definitely seen complaints about it, so I'm glad it's good. Yeah.
Well, I mean, those well names get super long, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they get, it's just, yeah. So that is actually a nice small little feature, but extremely helpful.
Absolutely.
So Jeff, I see in here, and I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but I see here the first well, that BB11618,
Mm-hmm.
where the A marl is to the B1 chalk. There's a thickness variability when you go from that well to the next well, correct, in the cross section.
Right.
And you can account for that for the thickness change tool. And I know that historically speaking, if you create a pseudo log, say
Mm-hmm.
from one of those wells, it wouldn't keep that. You would lose that thickness change, so it wouldn't like be an accurate representation of the well that just drilled, right?
Yes. So that brings us to our next point.
Yeah.
Major update to the Pseudo-type log function. Now, let's take a look at my map for a quick second as an example. If we were drilling this well on the edge, maybe it was by itself. We had a type well way up here, right? It's a long ways away. We could probably expect some variation in thickness. Right, so you might not want to use that well to steer off of. The thicknesses are so different, right? The problem was that if you created a pseudo-type well based on your landing, it would automatically, by default, retain the thicknesses of this linked type well, right? So that's something that we changed. We have a brand new function for creating a pseudo-type log, and I guess let's back up and describe what a pseudo-type well actually is.
Yeah.
For those of you who maybe have never used it, but essentially what it is we take our build section of a well and we convert that gamma ray log into a vertical TBD log. So it's based on the interpretation of your own lateral well, right? It typically uses a type well to steer in the area or this well here, right? So we could take a vertical well of this and steer off it, right? So if you don't have anything close to you, we can generate a pseudo type log from this and steer off of it. So just building on that, this is the new function. Let me find my well here. Right, so we want to create a pseudo type log from this landing based on the thicknesses that I've come up with in my interpretation, right? So I'm in geosteering mode. The way we do this is we use the thickness change tool. I'll widen this out so you can see it, right? And I can change the thicknesses of my horizons here. And these might end up being quite different from that of a type well that's like 2 miles away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've got it set up. Let's say I'm happy with that. I'll now go to my gamma ray log in the object tree. Now, in the past, this little feature was hidden here in the geosteering ribbon. We moved it into the operations tab. So it sits next to the confidence log function, and the pseudo type log is now here.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we create this log from displayed segments or all. In this case, I have one active segment because I'm just landing. And we can take the thickness from the type well. That was the old way to do things. So I can do that. I'll create one. Just create. We'll have a new type log down here. Or I can take it from the active segment. Right. So this is taking my actual thicknesses from my own interpretation. So I'll create one there. So there's two down there. I've actually already set this up in the correlation panel. So I've got type well number 1 that's based on type well thickness. Type well number 2 is from our own thickness, right? So we can see that there are variations in this A chalk. It's a little bit thicker in this well. B1's a little pretty much the same, and B marl is a bit thicker, right? So depending on how far that type well is away from you, it's definitely going to help you. It's going to make a lot more sense if you're using it to steer from. It just lessens the confusion overall.
Yeah, I think it definitely would help you out. I could have used that definitely when I was drilling some Wolfcamp C wells because that Wolfcamp B, man, was highly variable. It's difficult to land those Cs. But yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's a big change. Extremely helpful because I used to do the thickness change tool in the when I was landing in the vertical and then before landing, and then not having it be kind of retained was like, dang. So caused a little bit of a strife between me and my counterpart. But I think this is clutch. This is a nice little addition there.
Yeah, it used to be slightly confusing in the past because when you're creating that log, you'd almost expect it to take your thickness
Yeah.
from that well, and when it didn't, people were confused, right? So this actually makes more sense to me, or at least we can give everyone the option to use it. So
definitely. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, next cool feature we have here. I mean, this well has been split to pieces, right?
This is for your lumper or splitters, right? So are you a lumper or are you a splitter? Jeff, are you a lumper or a splitter, brother?
Obviously a splitter. Look at how I steered this and interpreted it.
I'm a lumper, bro. I want the least amount of segments. I want it to, you know what I mean? Let's go.
You just want to interpret it and get on to the next one, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
It's just a rough interpretation. With this new interpretation dip averaging tool, it's hidden up here in the interpretation format tab. We have this new fancy dip averaging slider, right? So I can apply a little bit of averaging. You'll see that my segments are starting to get grouped together. An average dip value is displayed amongst the groups.
Can you zoom into that a little bit more, Jeff? So we can see those. Yeah, buddy.
All right, so this is about 5 segments that are sort of lumped together and given an average. Now we don't lose the integrity of the original segments. We can still come in here and cycle through them to see the real value, right? Right, we can watch it change. We can zoom out. We can apply, you know, the full average across the board and split our well into, like, you know, 3 groups, right?
Perfect.
Now it helps us zoom in. It helps us to see the general trend of our interp. In the past, you might have turned on your ruler and, you know, tried to eyeball the general trend, watch those numbers in the bottom, you know, 90.3. It's just an extra step. It's a little easier, nice to visualize. You can turn on as much or as little as you need.
I'm also noticing when you do that, the very last bit of the well, I think you might be getting to that, but it moves.
Yeah, so this also might lessen some confusion. So if we take a look here, if I turn this off, all right, we have some somewhat extreme dips here, the last 2 segments that, you know, maybe we just threw in there to help with the correlation, but, you know, these can be kind of small. They might not represent the general trend. If you have your extension turned on here, which I do, it can start to look a little funny, right? If we have dip averaging on, it sort of takes that out and it's more representative of the general trend of this last group segment, right?
Hey, Jeff, got a couple questions. Can you display a dynamic gamma ray with this averaging, and will it affect that dynamic gamma ray character? I don't think it should. I believe you can, but it shouldn't affect the and then
everything's retained here, right? Everything's retained.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually change. It's just the segments are grouped.
You're just grouping them, right? I think it's actually very valuable because you might have a rollover in your well, right? Where, you know, in the first part of the first half of the well, it might be 90 degrees. Or even let's say it's a little up dip, 90 and a half, 91. But then you get to a point to where it's starting to roll over, flatten out, and then roll down. It's nice to have it like this, so then you know about when it is and what's the average dip of that. So then you can at least either set your waypoints, target lines, or whatever at that dip and say, hey, carry it through like that. I think that can really help out. But I got another question, Jeff. Will the dip averaging be reflected in the zone statistics? Uh-oh. You there?
Sure.
I'm 100% not gonna lie. You kind of cut out right there.
I got my back. I noticed that.
You are back a little bit. Yeah, much better. Yeah.
It was police. I don't see it because there's no really more vision right now. Vertical nothing exactly.
You're still a little choppy. I think you said that that the dip averaging will not be in the zone statistics because it still retains the original stuff. Is that what you said? I think.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. All right. Sorry.
Appreciate you. You're
All
good, brother.
right. Let,
Great questions,
let me
though.
know if I try and let me know if I cut out, but
You sound good right now. I'll let you know if you
out.
cut out.
Okay. All right. All right. So we're kind of at the stage here where I'm getting ready to write the geosteering report. We're winding down this webinar. Couple of parts. I should know what my target horizons are, right? So kind of rather than doing the speed talk, and actually come in here my and
Uh-oh. You're cutting out. I don't know if that's you or if that's me. All right, so I think if it is him and y'all can hear me, what he's talking about right here is being able to start tops and horizons. You're back? Can we hear you?
Yeah.
Kind of. You're still a little choppy. Still a little choppy.
Not good.
You're back a little bit, but what he was saying, the 2022.1, you were able to star your tops, right? And now within that, you can also star your horizons, but what you can do with those tops and horizons is specify, hey, we can star this horizon or top as the top of our target. We can star this horizon or top as the middle, as the center of our target, and you can star this top as the base or horizon as the base or bottom of our target, right? So that's something that's new. That's a new feature to 2022.2, which we're actually pretty excited about. Jeff, I see you now. Can I hear you?
Okay. I'm here.
Yeah, you're here.
Okay.
You're good. Okay.
All right. Okay, I switched networks, so I'm not sure what's going on. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've starred the C chalk. I can actually come in here and set start if I right click. So I can tell everyone that, hey, this is my top target. My C marl is my bottom target. And if I have a center target, I can just add, let's say I add a new horizon, right? Horizon 1, I'll edit. I can insert here somewhere, right? And then call that my actual center target. Okay. So it's for everyone to come in here in solo and see what we're actually targeting, so everyone's on the same page.
Yep.
So similarly, we can do the same thing with top sets. We have a top set generated under an actual well plan here. So similarly, we can go to each top and define top, center, or bottom target, as well as star the entire top set. Okay, so I have a top set geoprog under my well plan, and I have a top set my actual tops under my actual well. Right, and this again will tell everyone which top sets are important, but I'm going to show you some additional functionality when we go and create the report. So just remember that we did star my geoprog and my actual as drilled top set.
Cool.
All right, so we're almost ready to do the report. We are streaming data, so we might end up with some mudlog data, which may include some lithological descriptions. So when you have a lot of comment boxes in StarSteer, we now have an auto hiding feature. So I'll zoom in and it just kind of fits them all in place. Now, if I zoom in, I can still hover over these points and read the rock descriptions like we all love to do.
That's nice. That is awesome. I like the ability that it hides it and then you can just hover over it and find it. Right now, I don't think you can select which comments can appear or disappear. Hopefully that'll come in future versions. But right now, I mean, you can just hover your mouse over it and it'll come up. But you can turn them all off or turn them all on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We're almost ready. I'm going to do one more thing, and that is to create a striplog. This is a brand new feature in 22.2. We can create a new geosteering striplog. It's a cross section It can be printed with a single exaggeration. So the way we set that up is we'll set the leftmost part of my well, so the heel portion at the left side of my screen. I can go up here to the little camera menu, toggle on my strip log, and I have an option to choose between clipboard and file. All right, so to save this image, I'll just click the little camera. Okay. And it generates a new image file for me. So I'll show you what that looks like quick. Okay, so it's a one-to-one strip log. You can zoom right in, right? And so it retains the objects that I had turned on. So mythologies, my logs, my comments are still there, right? So you can save this and just email it off, right?
Nice.
And now that that's created, we can actually go in and include it as a page on our actual geosteering report. So before I launch the report generator,
Let's set your home button.
I'm going to turn off my comments. You know, where do I want to be? I'm going to set my home here. Okay,
Zoom
and
in,
if I
zoom in a
change
little
this,
bit on. Zoom in. Yeah, there you go.
yeah, I can reset or set home and go home, right? So if I click go home, everything's retained. This is a fix. It wasn't remembering our TBT position, but now it is. So I know a lot of you out there will be happy about this, I hope.
Yes, my BHL brethren will be happy about that because it wasn't working. And yeah, it was messing things up for their reporting, but we got it, baby. We got you hooked up.
All right, I'm going to turn on my map. I'm going to set up my view, make sure my zone statistics are here. So I have a couple of zones, sea chalk to sea marl, and then a repeating sea marl to the Fort Hayes silt. So that's all set up for my heel, my landing portion. All right, go ahead and launch.
Jeff, real quick, while that's launching, launch it. But while it's doing that, can you import the mud logs as a spreadsheet, or is it?
You can. Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, if you create a new comment box object, you can open the spreadsheet and you can copy paste straight from Excel into that little comment box spreadsheet.
Yep.
That was actually a new feature in the last release.
Yep.
Yep. All right. So just as before, we'll set up some of our parameters for our report. First page, I want a full screen, including my map. Correlation panel, I want on my second page. And so this is the part I'm going to leave 3 and 4 blank. The fifth page is actually a spot to add a screenshot.
So you can do a picture of me on the beach with a Mai Tai, right? I'm just kidding.
I mean, you could put your strip log there. You could put some other map for working interest, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, displayed starred prog tops versus I'm going to expand this. Starred prog tops versus actual tops. Now, this is where it became important to star our geoprog top set and our actual top set. So it's going to generate a new page, and I'll show you what that looks like.
And that's why starring your tops is important. That's another starred feature, and why you would want to star something like that is for this, at least with the tops, right?
That's right, yeah. The last survey position, that's standard, nothing new there. Last segment dip. Zone statistics, we have those set up, so yes. And target line, this is a new function for those of you with 8 wells on the go, different projects open, and you're regenerating your target line a lot. As long as you keep your newest target line starred, you won't have to come back into this menu and select the new target line. Right, so my target line 3 is the newest. I have one in there. I did star it. I'm just going to hit starred and it'll show up.
And so that's another starred feature. The other thing, I'm answering Jeff. Someone asked a question: is the importance of starred objects. Another one is we have some Python scripts that use starred objects, starred interpretations. So you don't have to have, like the gun barrel plot. You don't have to have them all be, the same interpretation name with like final in it or something. You can just select starred ones. So there's like a lot of other things like that within the Python script that having them starred is important. So
I think starred horizons and starred tops aren't available in Python quite yet, but they will be. So let's go ahead and submit. We'll generate a preview of my report. Here's page one with my full screenshot. Now you remember I set up my zone stats. This is my zone stats section. So I had sea chalk to sea marl, and then sea marl to Fort Hayes silt, and a lot of you
No duplicate.
know that there was a duplicate line when we had that horizon twice. So that has been fixed. There's no more duplicate line here.
No duplicate.
Scroll down, I had correlation panel 1 on page 2. So there it is. And we'll continue. So, oh my gosh, Keith, what did you send me? You're supposed to send me the striplog, man.
You stole a picture.
Where
did
a
that?
Picture of you on the report.
What am I looking at? Is that a glamour shot by Deb? What is that? Oh my goodness. I love it. Print that out. Let's go. Let's go to, yes, this page.
All right. So this is the starred prog tops versus actual tops page. This comes in if we set this as yes. Zoom in a little so you guys can see. So we have our top names here. We have our prog tops with MD, TBD, and sub-C columns. Same thing for actual, and then a calculated difference, right? So you may not necessarily need Excel open on the side, punching these numbers in, right, as you land. This is all here.
Now,
send off and include your report.
Jeff and I figured this out. You can actually, if you don't want it, you've got it in this as PDF style, right? You can save it out. But if for some reason you have an SOP where you need to take those out, copy them, put them somewhere, you definitely can. You can straight copy it from this, pull up an Excel spreadsheet and paste it in Excel. Or if you have your own Excel spreadsheet, you can paste it. Boom, you have it there. So if you have an SOP, and I bring this up because I have a client out there, if Feline's out there watching, here's your answer, homie. We talked about this a little bit earlier. So, but yeah, for those of you, if you already have something set up, you can copy paste those directly into your current spreadsheet. So excited about that.
That's it. So one more little feature here. It's actually a pretty big feature. We're ready to go. We can email this as a PDF. All right, we're going to click through here. And now we've returned to a more descriptive report. So this is huge for people with multiple wells, multiple projects on the go. I think in the previous 2 releases, it was called like ROGII standard report.pdf. So you have to waste a bunch of time renaming it. So the way it's structured now, it actually takes operator name, field name, well name, API number, geosteering report, current date, current time, and last MD here at the end. And so you don't have to waste your time anymore. We can save it, open up Outlook if you have it, and email it off right away.
Awesome.
So that was a feature that was sorely missed, and it's back.
It is back, everyone. It is back. We're excited about that. Well, I just looked down. It's 3:30, so we're about our time. People are starting to drop off. I wanted to mention before everyone goes that there is a happy hour today at Eureka Heights. We're hosting it with our friends at Stratigraph. It's going to be from 4 to 7, Eureka Heights. So if y'all have time, want to stop by, come on down. I'll be there. We can cheers to a cold one to the new features, the new version, and have some good times and shoot the breeze and help build the community. The other thing is, don't forget about Geosteering World Cup, y'all. Sign up, register, have fun. Let's do it. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, thanks everyone for attending. We filled the hour. We pretty much got through everything I wanted to show. There's a few little things hidden in there that you can find in the release notes that we didn't cover, but minor things. But make sure you get in there and check out the release notes.
Yep. And reach out to your AEs too, about getting in a meeting to go over these new features too. If you have any additional questions, we're wanting to get into y'all, get in with y'all, have those meetings, show you some of the new features, have those one-on-ones. So reach out to us. We're there to help. And yeah, until next time, y'all.
Yeah, we can stick around for a few minutes.
No, I'm out. Bye. I'm going to get beer. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm out getting beer. Bye. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, for those of you, if you have any questions, please just put them in the chat, put them in the QA. We'll stay for a little bit, a few minutes, 5-10 minutes. Yeah, we appreciate you joining. We're really excited about this release. the licensing for the Seismic, Jenny, is that what you're asking for? All of it. I love it. Yeah, you can reach out to me, Jenny. I think I have your contact information. I'll shoot you an email. And we can set up a time to go over more functionality within StarSteer, get you, if you're not familiar with it, you haven't trialed it, get you on a trial. And then you can, play around with it. And then at the end of the trial, if you want on, which, I'll tell you from my personal experience, when I started using it, I was like, yeah, I'm getting on. We need to get this bad boy. So we can have those conversations and get you on board. We have several different licensing types, activation code, floating licenses. There's a bunch of things that we can go over, but I think I have your email in here, and I'll make a note to either reach out to you, or we can get one of the AEs in your area to reach out to you. So and I think there was another question, Jeff. So the prog tops, Jeff, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Someone asked, you were just super still, bro.
I'm reading.
Someone
I'm reading questions.
Yeah. Where can you import your prog tops to compare to actuals? So
yeah, it's under a well plan. So if you have a well plan object in your object tree.
Can you just show that real quick? Is that okay?
Yeah. That's a better idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a well plan object. Turn it on. All right, you can see
Jimmy, I think Jimmy, we're going over this too. He's having a question about getting the prog tops, so one of the questions I think why people are asking this is, generally speaking, when you create your prog tops, they're in TVD, right? But StarSteer likes to have the tops in MD. Right. And so when you put it in, so if we can go through kind of like how to best do all that stuff in StarSteer. So I know I'll tell you this, Jimmy, there is a Python script that allows you to create your geoprog in StarSteer. And there's two different ones. You can create it from like grids. A grid. And there's ones from, I think, other typewells, I think.
Yeah, the grid is based on isopacking up from the horizon that's associated to a grid, and it'll isopack up, and that's how it generates the prog. The other one, I'm blanking on what the other one does and where to find it.
It's geoprog.
Prog from grid and typewell tops. So that's the one where it isopacks up from a grid. Oh, tops from grid intersections. So if you have a bunch of grids, it'll generate MD progs where it intersects the grids. So.
So that would be the best way to bring that in. Correct. The prog tops may not agree with it, but then once those prog tops are in there, right, you can go into the correlation panel, and then you can adjust those tops, I believe. So you can adjust them to be more accurate, and then those tops will have an MD, TVD, all that kind of stuff related to it. Because with the well plan, there's the well plan has a survey, really, right? Yeah. So then you should be able to go ahead and adjust those.
Yeah. To answer Cody's question, I don't know if we did, but where can you import your prog tops compared to actuals? Yeah. You just got to make sure you have a top set nested under a well plan. So the well plan object, you would just go to new top set, and then that one is nested under the well plan, and it's different from an actual top set nested under your well. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Both of them.
And then once you have those in, star it, and then once you create your tops, either after landing or however, at whatever time you put your tops in, if you manually enter them in as you're drilling, or if you do it once you land, star those tops, and then it'll do actual versus geoprog.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, the starred objects are important for either Python scripts, and generally that's going to be like your interpretation. And then starred tops is important for your actual versus prog. And then the starred target line is same thing for the reporting. But those starred objects also are important for solo just in general. right? So they are essentially like you saying, hey, this is an important object. So anyone else coming in knows that it's an important object, as well as going across. Since it's in solo, it goes across our other platforms. So like say RTM, you have a target line, you have an interpretation starred. Those will always be starred and shown to those looking at it in the RTM or drill spot, which
Yep.
it will be later. So it'll
Yeah.
it's a way to communicate the most appropriate, accurate, or important object, if you will, and
Yeah.
share that with your team.
Or Starlight.
Or Starlight, yeah, or Starlight, right? So like, because like we're geosteering, we have like a handful of different interpretations, but you really only want one to be like the important one, so you're going to star it, and then in your other things it'll show, you say, hey, I want it to show the starred interp, right? So it'll only show, it'll show that starred interp, and everyone's like, okay, that's the one we're going off of. So cool. Well, guys, I have to jump off because I have to drink some beer, but I really I really appreciate everyone for joining us today.